All right, get ready, because today we are diving deep into the power of the mind with, you guessed it, Napoleon Hill.
But hold on a second, because we're not taking the usual think and grow rich route this time.
Oh. Okay, so what's on the agenda for today's deep dive then?
Well, we're going off the beaten path with Napoleon Hill's Golden Rules, the Lost Writings. Think of it as uncovering hidden gems of thought on how our minds really tick.
Whoa, a treasure trove of secrets to success, you say. Now you've got my attention. Spill the tea. What kind of golden nuggets did Napoleon Hill stash away in these lost writings of his?
Well, he doesn't hold back on some mind-blowing concepts, let me tell you that. One that really caught my eye was this thing he called social heredity. It's this whole idea that our environment shapes who we are almost as much as our genes do.
Interesting. So not so much about inheriting your parents' genes, but more about inheriting your surroundings. That actually feels empowering in a way, like you've got more control.
You hit the nail on the head. Hill was adamant that we have the power to actually change our social heredity. Totally different from physical heredity, which is pretty much set in stone.
Right.
With social heredity, you can consciously choose the thoughts and influences you let into your life. It's like you can rewrite your own mental script, you know?
Okay, so it's like hitting the edit button on your upbringing. I'm liking this already. But how do we actually do that? Where do we even start?
Now, Hill, he was a huge believer in something he called, get this, autosuggestion. You know that saying, you are what you think you are?
Yeah, pretty familiar with that one.
Well, autosuggestion is basically putting that into practice.
Okay, so are we talking about the power of positive thinking here?
Yeah.
Visualizing success,
Yeah.
manifestation boards and all that jazz.
You're in the right ballpark.
Okay.
But Hill, he took it a step further. He had this whole system for enhancing his own abilities.
Really?
Especially public speaking, which he struggled with early on, believe it or not. And get this, he did it by holding these imaginary council meetings.
Yeah, hold on a minute. Imaginary council meetings. What in the world are we talking about here? Was he, like, talking to himself in the mirror or something?
Not quite. Picture this. Hill would envision this council table surrounded by these figures he absolutely admired: Abraham Lincoln, Ralph Waldo Emerson, even Napoleon himself. Can you believe that?
Wow, that's next level.
Mhm.
He's basically having board meetings with his heroes, but in his head.
Now, here's the kicker. He claimed that after just 1 week, just 7 days of doing these imaginary council meetings, his public speaking did a complete 180. Went from totally bombing on stage to captivating audiences all over the country.
You're kidding me. Is that for real? But was it really just the power of positive thinking, or was there something more to it?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It really makes you wonder about the untapped potential we've all got locked away up there.
Yeah.
But Henny Hill, he didn't just stop at influencing his own mind. Oh no, she took it a step further and explored how to influence others, which he called suggestion.
Okay, so if autosuggestion is about influencing your own mind, then suggestion is like aiming that power outward, trying to influence other people. Am I right?
You got it. And this is where it gets a little spooky, even for me. In the book, Hill tells the story about a woman who was completely convinced, like absolutely sure, that she would get cancer in this one very specific spot on her body. And what do you know? That's exactly what happened.
Wow. That is both fascinating. They're a little scary at the same time. It's like our thoughts have this crazy amount of power over us.
It really does make you think, huh? And it highlights just how crucial it is to really grasp how suggestion works, both in our own lives and in the world around us.
Okay, so are we talking about mind control here, like Jedi mind tricks from Star Wars? How does this suggestion thing actually work in real life? So no Jedi mind tricks here, but we are talking about how our words and actions, they can actually shape the thoughts and actions of those around us. I'm all ears. How do we tap into this power of suggestion for good?
Well, Hill, he was a big believer that before you could really effectively use suggestion, you first had to neutralize their mind.
Okay, neutralize their mind. You're not talking about some kind of memory wipe, are you?
No, not at all. Think of it more like disarming their skepticism. You know, breaking down those walls of resistance.
Like you can't just march up to someone with a completely rigid point of view and expect them to just flip a switch and change their mind, right?
Exactly. Now, Hill, he gives this wild example of neutralization in action. It's a story about this con man who actually used suggestion to swindle people, believe it or not.
Whoa, a con man using suggestion. Now that's a story I need to hear. Tell me everything.
Okay, so picture this. You're walking down the street, and this really friendly fortune teller, they approach you. And just casually, they mention this acquaintance of theirs, a successful, and get this, incredibly generous businessman named, let's say, Mr. Bircha. And wouldn't you know it, he's always on the lookout for people to help succeed in the business world.
Classic con artist tactic. Dangle the promise of wealth and opportunity to draw you in, right?
You see it, right. And as luck would have it, you bump into this Mr. Bruce himself. He's dressed to the nines, oozing success and confidence. He chats you up for a bit, then rushes off to an important meeting, name-dropping folks like J.P. Morgan along the way.
Subtle, but effective.
Yeah.
Establishing that credibility, that aura of exclusivity. I could see how people would fall for that.
And this little charade, it repeats itself. You keep bumping into Birch, always at the perfect place, perfect time, and each time it's clear he's off to meet some bigwig. His time is valuable.
So he's not even trying to sell you anything at this point. He's playing the long game, right?
Yeah.
Planting that seed in your mind that he's someone worth knowing, someone with serious connections.
He's basically neutralizing your skepticism without you even realizing it, see? He's appealing to that deep down desire we all have for wealth and success. So by the time he finally extends an invitation, let's say a fancy dinner at some exclusive club, you're already primed to see him as this potential benefactor, this golden ticket to the good life.
No, I totally see where you're going with this. You're hooked. You've bought into the act, let your guard down, and naturally he picks up the tab, showering you with generosity and attention.
Precisely.
Yeah.
But here's where it gets really interesting, really sneaky. He studies you. He's learning your interests, your weaknesses, all that, and uses it to his advantage. If you're a car enthusiast, he'll let you take his expensive sports car for a spin. If you're a little insecure about your social standing, he'll introduce you to all the right people.
So it's not even about selling you a product anymore. It's about creating this whole custom-made illusion, this fantasy of friendship and opportunity. We're talking next-level manipulation.
It's a classic con, plain and simple. And once he's got you right where he wants you, fully neutralized, totally trusting, bam, that's when he hits you with the real suggestion. And it's not some pushy sales pitch either. No, he's much smoother than that. He'll casually mention some amazing investment opportunity he's involved with, just enough to pique your interest, get those wheels turning.
He's playing you like a fiddle, and you're so caught up in this illusion that you're practically begging to hand over your hard-earned money, desperate to get in on this so-called opportunity.
And that, my friend, is often how the con game unfolds. It's a cautionary tale, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But man, does it highlight the sheer power of these psychological principles, especially when wielded by someone who knows what they're doing.
It's like that saying, a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. Right.
You said it. And while that example really showed us the dark side of suggestion, Napoleon Hill, he truly believed there's a brighter side. He talks about this thing called the law of retaliation. Is it about revenge? Because that doesn't sound like Hill at all.
I was just thinking the same thing.
It's not about revenge. No, think of it more like the idea that what you sow is what you reap. Or even simpler, we tend to mirror the treatment we receive from others.
Okay, that makes more sense. So if you're rude to someone, they're likely to fire right back with rudeness. But if you treat them with respect and kindness, they're more inclined to reciprocate. It's like that saying, you attract more bees with honey than vinegar.
Bingo. Hill believed that this law of retaliation, it was absolutely crucial for success, especially in areas like sales or leadership. He makes this case that by treating everyone with respect, even when they're being difficult, that's how we can disarm them and open their minds to our influence.
That makes a lot of sense, especially in a high-pressure situation. Do you have an example from the book that really shows this law of retaliation in action?
Hill, he shares this incredible story about a clergyman right in the middle of the Lawrence Massacre. It was this horrific event where pro-slavery folks, they attacked this abolitionist town in Kansas. Brutal stuff.
Wow, that's heavy stuff. I can only imagine the terror those people must have felt. What happened to the clergyman?
So this clergyman, he's woken up in the dead of night by one of these raiders demanding his valuables. Watch, money, the whole 9 yards. And it's pretty clear this raider, he's got murder on his mind. Just think about that for a second. What would you even do in that situation?
Oh my gosh, I wouldn't even know where to begin. My heart would be pounding out of my chest. I'd probably be frozen in fear, maybe beg for my life, or maybe try to reason with the guy, even though it would probably be pointless.
Terrifying, right? But this clergyman, he does something completely unexpected. Instead of meeting violence with violence or breaking down and pleading for his life, he just looks this raider dead in the eye, stone cold calm, and says, "You know you should be ashamed of yourself."
Whoa. Talk about a power move. He basically disarmed that raider with his courage and appealed to his conscience all at the same time. Did it work? I mean, did the raider actually back down?
You bet it worked. The raider, he was totally caught off guard. This wasn't in the script. Instead of things getting even more heated, they end up having this conversation right there on the porch while the whole town is being torn apart around them. Can you believe that?
Are you serious?
Oh.
That's incredible. I would never have thought to react like that in a million years. It just shows you the incredible power we have to influence people if we know how to tap into it.
Right. And it gets even wilder. By the time those raiders cleared out, the clergyman, he had all his belongings back, every last one. And get this, the raider actually apologized for disturbing him.
No way. You've got to be kidding me. It's just mind-blowing. It's proof positive that kindness and understanding, they can be more powerful than anger and aggression, even in the worst situations.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And this story, it loops right back to the idea of suggestion. See, by responding with respect, even when he was staring death in the face, that clergyman, he neutralized the raider's anger, and in doing so, he cracked open his mind, even if it was just a little, to a whole new perspective. It's like Hill says, the law of retaliation. It's like this mirror reflecting the interconnectedness of human thought and action.
So we're not just shaping our own destinies, but every interaction we have, every thought we put out there, it's influencing the thoughts and behaviors of everyone around us, creating a ripple effect. Man, that's a pretty profound responsibility. So it's not just about charting our own course, but we're also shaping the paths of those around us. Yeah. Talk about a ripple effect. But with all this talk about social heredity, suggestion, it really seems like our minds, they have the power to do both amazing things. A&E has some pretty destructive things. How do we make sure we're using all this power for good?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Hill, he really stresses that the mind, it's capable of incredible creation, but it can also wreak havoc if we let it. He was adamant that our thoughts, they're not just these fleeting things, they have real weight, you know? They directly impact our actions, and ultimately they shape the reality we experience.
It's like they say, we become what we think about. But knowing that, how do we actually harness the power of our minds for good? How do we ensure we're creating the reality W want, not one that's thrust upon us?
Well, Hill, he was ahead of his time in a lot of ways. He recognized that negativity, it's like a poison, both for our minds and our lives. He was a big proponent of positive thinking, and he actually laid out some pretty practical ways to cultivate a more powerful, more positive mindset.
Okay, so what's the secret sauce? What can we actually do to shift from negative thinking to a more positive outlook?
Honestly, one of the simplest yet most effective things you can do is to just consciously focus on the positive. It's like instead of getting bogged down by what you don't want, zero in on what you do want. Visualize the outcomes you're working towards, surround yourself with things that inspire you, and just keep repeating those positive affirmations. It's all about cultivating this mental landscape that nourishes your goals instead of holding you back.
So it's like we're giving our minds a constant diet of nourishing, positive thoughts instead of filling up on junk food negativity.
You got it. And Hill, he was also a huge believer in the power of genuine enthusiasm. He saw it as this contagious energy that could really fuel our efforts and inspire those around us, too.
You know what they say, enthusiasm is contagious. But it's more than just feeling good, right?
Exactly. Hill argued that enthusiasm, it can actually draw opportunities and resources into our lives. Remember that law of retaliation we talked about earlier? Well, when you project enthusiasm, you tend to attract enthusiastic people and experiences back into your life.
It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy in a way. Believe that good things are coming your way, approach life with enthusiasm, and chances are those good things will come knocking.
Now you're getting it. But Hill, he was also realistic. You know, he acknowledged that negativity, it's just part of life. We all face challenges, disappointments, moments of doubt. The key is to not let those thoughts take over.
Okay, that makes sense. But how do you actually deal with those negative thoughts when they inevitably pop up? We can't just ignore them and pretend they don't exist, can we?
Of course not. Hill wouldn't advise that either. He said one of the most powerful things you can do is just acknowledge those negative thoughts, but without judgment. It's not about suppressing them or beating yourself up for having them. Just notice them and then make a conscious choice to shift your focus towards something more positive.
It's like having a conversation with that negative thought.
Yeah.
You're saying, okay, I hear you, but I'm choosing to focus my energy elsewhere right now.
Exactly. And Hill, he had another technique. Challenge those negative thoughts head on. Ask yourself, is this really true? Is this thought serving me in any way? Is there a different, more empowering way to look at this situation?
It's about reclaiming the narrative in our minds, becoming the authors of our own stories, rather than letting fear and negativity call the shots.
Beautifully put. And here's the thing. Hill was a big believer in taking action. He argued that one of the most effective ways to combat negativity is to just do something, to take a step towards your goals. It doesn't have to be this huge leap. Even small steps in the right direction can make all the difference.
Because action creates momentum,
Yeah.
and that momentum fuels confidence. You're proving to yourself that you've got what it takes to make progress, no matter the obstacles.
And that's what Hill's golden rules are all about, giving us the tools to tap into our full potential and create the lives we dream of.
This has been an amazing deep dive. I feel like I've learned so much. Before we wrap things up, was there anything else Hill had to say about the power of thought? What's that one key takeaway you want our listeners to carry with them?
For Hill, this journey of personal growth, of mastering your mind, it wasn't just about individual success. It was about using that power to make the world a better place.
So it's not just about what we accomplish for ourselves, but how we can use our thoughts and actions to make a difference in the world.
You got it. And if our thoughts truly have the power to shape our reality, and Hill truly believed they did, then what kind of reality are we creating, not just for ourselves, but for everyone around us?
Now that is something worth thinking about. It's been amazing exploring these golden rules with you. I hope our listeners are walking away with a fresh perspective on just how powerful their minds really are and a commitment to using that power for good.
Couldn't agree more. Remember, the only limit to what we can achieve is the limit of our own imaginations.
I love that. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep into the incredible world within you.